About this panel today because it's one of my favorite topics, of course, which is finance. It's also got a power-packed a lineup of speakers that we have for you here at Ladies Who Lead today in collaboration with SALT. And that's, of course, funded by Shinjini Kumar. SALT are our knowledge partners for this session today. And we will be taking a whole host of your queries later on in case you have any at all in terms of how to tackle finance and make your way in the game. Joining us today, we've got Devina Mehra, Chairperson, Managing Director and Founder at First Global, Manisha Girotra, CEO, Moelis India, Lakshmi Iyer, Chief Investment Officer of Debt and Head of Products, Kotak Mahindra Asset Management Company, and Shikha Mehra, Co-Founder, MainChain Research and Consulting, and of course, Shinjini Kumar of SALT. And many of you are also friends or people I've been interviewing on television for many, many years. So it's great to have you with us on Ladies Who Lead. And for those of you who are still familiarizing yourself with our platform, this is really what we aim to do, bring together some amazing women, like-minded peers, give an opportunity for others to really gain from that knowledge and grow and strive to achieve together. With that, Shinjini, over to you.
Hey, thank you, Aabha. And you always do this, and you do this really, really well. Just bring a lot of really smart people together, smart women together. And it's a privilege for me personally, and on behalf of SALT and my co-founders, Aditi and Chaitra, to be here. So let me just get started right away with a very, with a statement that many times I hear people make, which is money is power. So I want to ask all of you to respond to this question that how all of you are women in finance, and how have you used your knowledge of finance to grow your wealth, and how has that helped you to operate from a position of power in your life? I think it'll be great to hear that from you. And whoever wants to go first, maybe Devina, why don't we start with you?
Okay, so I did not get into finance for either the money or the power, as I often say. I got into it for the learning. So that's where I came from. But you're right that you have to have your own money and your own wealth in order to even, let alone, exert power outside of yourself, but even to take charge of your own life. And as time has gone by, I have found that a lot of women give up that power, that they are not cognizant of the fact that they are not controlling what they should be controlling, which is even their own money and wealth. Even, achievers, let us say, in the film industry or something, if you see interviews or TV, all the women will say, but my investments are looked after by my father or brother or husband. So that I think this is like a big disconnect. How you should be controlling at least your own wealth and power. And, because with wealth comes power. If you look at the statistics also, not just labor market participation of women, which is so low. If you look at how percentage of properties held by women, that's so low. That is used to be in single digits. I don't know whether it's moved into double digits yet or not. I haven't looked at the latest data. So those are the things that worry me. Often people tell me that why do you need women-only platforms or women's days and all that? I said, the day the property ownership is 50-50, the labor participation is at some reasonable level is when you won't need it. But right now we are a very long way from there. So, definitely you need to control the money to even control your own life.
Yeah. Manisha, go.
Sure, thanks. I think much like Devina, I'm also an accidental banker. I didn't enter finance because I wanted, I thought this power, etc. But I think the one thing I was clear about, and I think this came from my mother, is that I have to be economically independent. Economic independence for me, equal power, equal status, everything. So I was very clear that I'm going to be financially independent. And that's the best way to have a marriage partnership or just an equal role in the world. And I think from there stemmed my journey of investing, etc., which I'm sure we'll talk about. But the essence of it was I will always be economically independent, and I will use my education in a way that funds my own existence. So from there stems my journey.
Would you like to give any specific story, Manisha, Lakshmi, like, yeah, something that happened that made you realize this? Like in my personal life, I've realized that I never thought of money as power, because as it happened, you know, like both of you said, accidentally, and you stray on and you do things that come your way. And then sometimes something happens that just makes you realize that if I was not independent, then I wouldn't have been able to do this. It'll be nice to hear some of those stories. I mean, you can think about it while whoever has the story can go first.
I mean, like Manisha, I never thought of not working, you know, that was never, it was from school onwards, that was never ever an option. That maybe because, I mean, my mother anyway worked, so and it was assumed that like my brothers would marry working women. It was that in our family, that was the norm. You thought that, yes, women will work. I mean, there was never a question that there will be any differentiation on education or career paths depending on your gender. Even in my mid-20s, my father's thing was not to get me married. He was pushing me that, why are you not doing a doctorate? Go to Harvard and do a doctorate. So it was like at that time, people would say that 4 or 5 years, you know, the marriageable age will be passed or whatever, but that was never the thinking in my home. So I was fortunate in that then.
So, Shinjini, just quickly, in my case, as you asked the question, I was thinking, I grew up in Himachal. My father was a banker. He used to work with a state-owned bank, and he was heavily into financial inclusion, much before people knew words like financial inclusion. So we used to go into these small, every Saturday, Sunday, we would go into these small remote villages where you would open branches. That time, branch network was important. You didn't sort of do banking on your phones, etc., right? So we would go into this, me and my brother would go into these small towns in a rickety jeep and small villages, 100 people villages, etc. And he would love to spend time with the villagers, to understand their issues, etc. And what I saw was that, and which all of us who are from India know it, that, all the women would do all the work. Even in Himachal, the women do all the work in the village, right? Whether it's looking after the children, the outside work. But the bank accounts were all opened by the man. The woman didn't even have a co-signing or approval, right? So the man, all the earnings went into the man's account, who basically got drunk in the night and beat up the woman, right? And I saw this repeatedly over 9 years. And that's when I realized, and the women were physically tougher, smarter, very Himachal women, much like most village women across the country, are very smart. They are absolute survivors, right? It's a tough terrain. They know how to survive it. They know how to bring up their children in places which are, all the odds are against them. And still I saw they had no rights. And that's when what my mother used to tell me just got, rationalized in my head, that you must have economic independence and power. Because here was a classic case week after week that I saw, was that the breadwinner had no access to a bank account, had no access to earnings. And she wanted to educate her children, spend the money in positive areas, but she couldn't, because the man would take it and just spend the weekend drinking away. So that's really where that's where it comes for me, that, all women must be financially independent, must own a bank account. Now bank accounts are not so relevant, but that's really, where my whole ethos came from on working.
Sure. Lakshmi, Shikha.
Yeah. So, a couple of things. One is, Shinjini, when you asked that question, the first thing that came up to my mind was, and I'm assuming quite a few of us here would have seen this movie called Pushpa, the Allu Arjun starrer, which is a multi-bagger right now. So there's a nice dialogue in that which says that Pushpa naam sunkar flower samjhi kya, fire hai main. So for me, when it started off, and for me, the piece of not finance maybe, but the fact that I need to be financially independent, that came in, somewhere when I was in school. So I had finished my 10th. When I was in 11th grade, which is around 17, that's when I started earning my first income. And I used to tutor school kids. I love teaching. And, that's because I used to teach all subjects except finance, because our curriculum then and even today does not really have too much of financial topics as part of the curriculum. So that's when the seeds of being financially independent. Why should I ask my folk really, probably give me some money to probably go out with friends? And those days going out with friends also was like a rarity. It was a feast, once in 2 months or once in 3 months you had to go out. At least that's the time when. And then you realized, and then of course it went on, and then I finished my graduation and then my MBA, and then I realized that, this is fire, this is nasha, as I would say, and for a teetotaler who doesn't have any other high, this is high. And then you realize that when you are financially independent, you feel empowered. And there is that innate fire within you which allows you to conquer many, many things. And now, fortunately, having spent over 2 decades in the financial world, I am convinced that this relay race has to continue. This has to pass on to many, many more women. And I think that's something which I'm die-hard passionate about. So yes, that was a different kind of fire. And now there's a different kind of fire to make sure this happens.
Shikha.
Hi. So, very interesting. Thank you for sharing all that. I don't remember the last time I was actually on an all women's platform, because I work in the space of, blockchain and cryptocurrencies where it's male dominated. But that's a different reason why that particular field is male dominated. But coming to like the importance of women empowerment, or all of us as women rising up to the occasion and realizing, so I'm a lawyer, I'm a trained lawyer, I'm not a practicing lawyer. So, I don't know how many of us know that it was only until 2005 that the Hindu Succession Act was amended to include women as co-partners in ancestral property. So until 2005, women were not considered smart and sensible enough to have to get a birthright in ancestral property. That's how gendered the right to wealth and the right to property that has been held in the family, that's how skewed it was just until 2005. So I think that is one of the biggest reasons our entire or the right for women to vote, to make sensible decisions, right? So power comes with voting, power comes with money, wealth, right? So all of this is kind of new to the female, recognition of it is new, and as far as my own life goes, I don't think, so knowledge of finance, I've actually never been a student of finance. I've been a student of law, economics, physics, and I have my master's as a tax specialist. So I think it was this, cross-disciplinary approach that helped me take positions and do unconventional things, as a career choice. And I was able to learn, grasp, and take investment exposure in innovation and in an emerging technology that has helped me multiply my wealth. Because I think the question in the emails that to us was that, the ability, like, how did you multiply your wealth, and how did your knowledge of finance help? So I'm answering that by saying it was actually my knowledge of a vast variety of subjects and my ability to have a, cross-disciplinary lens to take a position in something that most other people laughed at, mocked at, it was at the fringe. And even right now, whether it's an asset, it's a commodity, it's a currency, it's a scam, it has no value, it has no underlying value, the governments will ban it, blah, blah, blah. That ability to cut through the noise and take a position and have the confidence to do that, I think is what has put me in a position of power and privilege today. I say power because the wealth that I've been able to generate, the one essential game changer in my life because of that, wealth accumulation, I may say, is the fact that I have now freedom. I have freedom, so that the money or that wealth has given me freedom that I didn't have for many of my earlier, choices that I had in my 20s and maybe mid 30s. So I think money gives one freedom, and that freedom has been the most liberating. And I hope that everyone else walks down that path of freedom.
So, Aabha, go ahead.
No, I was saying she's put it so well. You've all put it so well, and I wanted to also, I think she's really touched a chord there. But I also wanted to share, whether it's Manisha, Devina, Lakshmi, and all of you. The reason that we've invited all of you also is because women have so much to look up to and be inspired by. There's still so much resistance to the world of finance. and to you, Shinjini, as well. That there is so much resistance to the word finance, despite the fact that it's been 20 years or so of people working through the paces and growing in and having very established careers. There are still too many, and I'm not sure what the fear factor is. And that's something we wanted to address. I mean, one part of it is, of course, working for it, but the other part of it is also to address it from the point of view that if you're in charge of your finances, that's when you can be in control of your life and have that freedom that Shikha is talking about. Over to you, Shinjini.
Sure. I actually wanted to ask a follow-up question from Shikha, because I agree with how you define power, because I'm really intrigued because we have very accomplished women here, very senior, Devina in particular, but I think everyone just started to, Devina, I'm going to pick on you a little bit on this, because both you and Manisha saying that I didn't start with the idea of thinking it is power. And I'm thinking, why not? Power is so we always think about, and Lakshmi brought in empowerment. And I have a personal grouse with that word empowerment, because it is somehow something that I didn't, that I got from someone. But I just think the way you all have you all have lived your life, and the way you have made your money, and the way you have used that money to do things with it, both commercially and I'm pretty sure in personal life, is very inspiring to think of what is the actual power of money. The actual power of money is to change the game as you see fit. So for me, when I take a decision to give 1 lakh of rupees to somebody who needs it, and to go to school or whatever, and I don't have to think about getting that money back, I don't have to justify it to anybody, I don't have to make excuses for it, that gives me a sense of power, right? Tomorrow maybe that amount can be larger or whatever, and depending on. So I want you to actually tell me this, because I see this in a lot of women, this reluctance to directly face it and say, yes, this is power and I will exercise this. Why?
Shinjini, let me tell you where, I get part of what you're saying, except that, I had not thought of money as the particular thing growing up. I always did think, when I was growing up, I'm sure that's not the case anymore. I hope it's not the case, but I used to see even women achievers, right again from, film actors to others, to even people I met in real life, even working women, who would always make it a point to underline that I'm not ambitious.
That's the point.
I always thought that why shouldn't you be ambitious?
Yeah.
So that
and why should you not say money is power?
Yeah, so I'm saying that it is, but I'm saying that's not what was the motivation to go into this, because you wanted to be an achiever, but money in particular was not the goal that you were pursuing. Obviously, wanted to be independent and all of that, but that was not the primary driving force for what you did in the career, at least, for making the choices you did in the career. So yes, as I said, for me, the choices were more driven by where I can learn more, because that has been my driving force through my life. So that was, but as I said, that unless you control the money, you don't have the power.
Yes.
In your life, alone anything else. So even a lot of working women, and this I'm not talking, people who are just working on the fields or something like that, but I'm talking about even accomplished professional women. A lot of them don't control the money, and this is a conversation I have had with a lot of my school friends, for instance, and many of them have done extremely well professionally. And if you want, I can go into why one of the reasons why, in spite of being very accomplished and educated, people don't take charge. There are many reasons, but one of the reasons is that already women are juggling so many responsibilities, because you are doing the work outside the home, you are at home, you are still in charge of, even if you're not actually doing the cooking, you're in charge of the staff, you have to keep track of your mother-in-law's medicine and a whole lot of other things. And managing the family finances is one thing the husband is happy to do. So the wife is happy to say that at least, this is one thing off my plate. So a lot of the thinking actually even comes from that, let alone anything else, that, this is like, I already have too many things to do, and this one thing I can allow the husband to do, and it's off my head.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things why women are not running the family finances, even when they are doing well professionally.
Yeah, very true. And in fact, that's one of the things that inspired us to build SALT, because we are three women from three generations, and we already started to see that that this problem is not just going away because of generational change. Because we are three co-founders and we are three cohorts, and we realized that it's not just going away because younger women are smarter and they are more ambitious, and they probably are much more bold to face this idea that yes, I need this power to live my life the way I need to live. So we thought we needed to do more things on that, and that's where this whole initiative came. But I want to ask Manisha, Lakshmi, and Shikha, because you already touched upon it, is how do you see this changing?
So if I can just quickly actually, when you said why, when I answered the question on why what does finance mean to me, and I said it's economic independence, you raise a very relevant point. Why didn't I say things like power or ambition? It's really the unconscious biases that I've been brought up with, right? And I don't mean this by my parents, but generally in the society, that look, the fact that I wanted to be economically independent was itself a quantum leap. I don't think when I started off, I could state that my ambition is I want to be powerful, or I'm very ambitious. I don't want to stop at just being a branch manager of a particular branch of India's bank. I want to do more. I want to be the CEO of a business. So you're right. We are apologetic about our ambitions, and that limits us as women, right? We ourselves limit ourselves on our ambition, on the fact that we want to be financially inclusive. I mean, I hear what Devina says, that women sort of say, look, we're already doing so much. Let's just exclude ourselves out of the whole money managing. But I think women consciously do it because it's just seen from childhood as such a masculine trope that, saving the little piggy banks that we were given as kids. I was told, go and buy books. My brother was told, come with me to the bank, bank branch, we'll open an account for you. So I think those masculine tropes just got so embedded. And as a result, we all developed such unconscious biases that, today, even when I'm answering you, I fell for that, right? By saying, look, why am I being apologetic? Finance and money means power to me. It's the truth, right? It may have started off as economic independence, but it has evolved. And so thank you. You raised a good point, and I learned something about myself here. Thank you for that.
And tell me, how do you see that changing? You do have a daughter, right?
I have a daughter. Yes, I have a daughter. She's 18 years old. She's in college. But, she's very aware. She tells me that, where are you? So as you said, you're not answerable for the money you give to anyone. I'm answerable to my daughter. She says, but have you checked this agency? Where are you giving the money? Where have you asked them how they lose the money? So she asked me a lot of things. We are not, both me and my husband, because we are bankers, we're not allowed to invest in a lot of stocks, etc. A lot of the things are banned. So, but she takes an interest. She wants to know, why should we be investing in certain stocks? Why do people invest in tech companies where there's no EBITDA, no earnings? Cryptos, I think she can take a lesson. So she's very much aware, which is good, right? I think because she's seen conversations around the home. My father's a banker too. But I see a step change in her, in what she was at 18 versus what I was at 18. Going back to the same point, which is that I was like, I must work to be economically independent. But she doesn't say that. She says that she must be aware of how to manage her money well, how to multiply it, etc., etc. She's already having those conversations.
Yeah, that's what we are seeing. And that's why I always say that if this was a problem statement, we wouldn't be building a company for it. But this is changing. And that's the reason that we think we have we have something to do. So Lakshmi, Shikha, please do tell us, how do you see this changing?
The biggest thing which I have seen, Shinjini, in my many years of interaction with women and I would say aspiring students of finance, for example, is the inertia is gradually and more steadily giving way to willingness, and the fact and the realization that this financial being equipped with financial knowledge, independence is going to be the way forward. I think that's the biggest change that I am seeing. The mental blocks, which were so-called, stuck in various corners of the gray matter, I think that has given way. Well, social media has done its good a lot of awareness workshops, a lot of independent agencies doing a lot of work, and not just restricting it to a Women's Day event, as I call it. I think all of that has, and of course, as they say that once you taste success, the tongue wants more. So, given that kind of, and this is what I saw in the movie 83, so I just kind of again resonated with that dialogue, as the team India were discussing. So the point is that in the last 2.5, 3 years specifically, COVID acted as a very strong catalyst. Right, wrong, of course, time will tell. The means to achieve it, time will tell. But the fact is that more and more millennials, gender agnostic, but of course women also, at least the data shows, are getting into this fray to try understand what investments are all about. Of course, some bit of them are purely into trading because they want those quick fix solutions, but that doesn't make it the rule. So I think all of this come together, you realize, and the kind of questions, the kind of discussions I have this time around when I interact with, say, a bunch of women is significantly different from what it used to be probably even 5 or 7 years back. And I see that as a very, very happy change. And that, as I said, makes me feel so thrilled. And my sense is this is here to stay. And we are going to see, and as Manisha rightly said, when I was 17, my son is going to be 17 this year, I had no clue, what understanding of a profit is. Of course, you had superficial knowledge of it because you were in college, but what is return on investment, what is ROE, what's a bad proposition, how to cut loss. I think when he talks, all of that makes you feel really good that at least the generation wants to learn, and those who are still getting into the groove are getting motivated and to come much faster and stronger.
Shikha, I have the same question for you, but I came to you last because I wanted to put a spin on that question for you. One of the things, so we interviewed hundreds of women before we started to build SALT. And one of the things we realized, which was very interesting for us, is that there is a little bit of a leapfrogging in the attitude towards money in younger women. And a lot of them actually feel that they can start with a new class of investment. And I think one of the things that crypto has done very interestingly is that it has broken that shackle. So one of the girls we interviewed said it very nicely. She said, if I go into stocks, my father will always have a view. But if I do crypto, he has no idea. And that's why I buy crypto. It was a very cute thing, but I realized, do you think that's true? And do you see that happening?
So actually the percentage of, if you survey the Indian cryptocurrency exchanges, not more than 15-20% of their user base are women. But if you take another statistic, there are more women investing in cryptos than they are in stocks, right? So now, if you were to marry those two and sort of draw inferences from those data points, we can come up with, varying, insights. But in my personal experience, as far as the decision to do something and to have my own money, or just to have my own freedom to exist on my own terms, I'm actually a classic case in point. I didn't feel this need until 10, 13 or 15 years ago max. 13 years ago, I'm 43. So until 10, 15, 13 years ago, I was completely, a chip of the old block where, I had this Cinderella complex that everything is like taken care of either by brothers, fathers, or husbands, and so if you read this book, The Cinderella Complex, I think it's called that, for a woman to even change the light bulb in her house or to do something that is primarily considered a man's job, was that she's got a raw deal in her life, that she doesn't have a man to do these, things for her. Similarly, so going to a bank account, standing in line, even when, all of that. So whatever has been predominantly male and then predominantly female, those biases, like Manisha said, are very hard set in stone. Now, when I started this whole concept of financial independence or empowerment, right? I chose law as a career. The first thing I did was law because And my reason for choosing law was that whatever I do in law, whatever career I built, I won't need invested financial capital. To start a business, you need some money. And my ROI, my return on investment, will come with whatever intellectual capital I have. It's the one business or the one career which I don't have to ask anyone to start. Because otherwise to start, you need some corpus. You need something to start off with. So I have built whatever money I have today. I have been able to do that in the last 10, 15 years, having all the negative biases against women working, women being independent, how that's literally not something that, women from certain families even consider and should consider. So I didn't have that luxury and that privilege of, having that environment around me where I was encouraged. It was a really uphill battle to extricate myself from that. And then once I was trying to extricate myself from that, I had to choose something so that I don't ask permission. And I don't ask, can you give me some money to start a business? I didn't have that choice or luxury either. I didn't want to start off like that. And I think that now I don't have children, so I do not know how things are changing and how other women are now viewing their life like this. But I do have a best friend, Neha Bakaya, who's running Jobs for Her. It's one of India's largest portals for relaunching women back into their workforce. And because she's my best friend, my bestie from college, we talk all the time. And she was talking about how women, corporate women, don't feel the confidence to ask for a pay raise, because assertive women, ambitious women, are looked at very differently than assertive, ambitious men, so whatever my learnings from the space of women and in the workforce and asking for a pay raise when they feel it's due, whatever learnings I have is frankly from Neha. The other thing that I would say is that why this world is changing is, which has got a little bit more to do with my domain, is that this whole work from home and this whole pandemic is, taking us more and more from the physical realm to the digital realm. And so if a woman can work from home as well as balance her household responsibilities and have flexible working hours, and work through an online medium, that is going to be, I think, a huge game changer of many more women coming into the workforce, because now the workforce is slowly becoming much more virtual than ever before. And for women to go to work, spend long hours, work with international time zones, come back late at night at 12:31, have those vans, all that, all the laws and the safety measures in place for women at the workplace, how safe they feel, how safe their fathers and husbands feel that, you're going to this office, this building, this, that. So all of those biases also, which exist today, will slowly start fading into insignificance as our social life, commercial life, entertainment, and work life slowly move more digital. I think that will be like a great game changer. I think that's all I have to contribute to this.
No, these are valid points. Manisha, and then I'm going to ask Devina and Lakshmi some very pointed questions on investing. But Manisha, since you have an insight into how the corporate world is evolving, do you see a shift generationally in terms of the women that are working with you or in your environment when you meet these lawyers and financial, giants? Are you seeing more women who are actively involved pursuing their goals? Do you also feel that perhaps we're now seeing more money moving towards women-led businesses? I mean, are you seeing any shifts in the ecosystem?
Sure, but before I answer, let me just tell Shikha, you may not have a kid, but you already belong to the Gen Z, because you talk like my daughter. She's like, I will in 10 years, she's gone to the US and I keep telling her, can I come and visit you? I'm missing you. And she's like, Mom, in 5 years, we'll anyway meet in the metaverse. So stop getting so emotional and soppy. So you're there. Don't worry whether you have kids or not. You're more with it than me, Shinjini and Lakshmi. But Aabha, to your question, I think I see the shift happening at the starting point. So when we and I think you and I have discussed this, when we hire women and men into the workforce, it's pretty much equal today. And you see the women pretty much when you go to the business schools, etc., the campuses being the toppers in their class. So very equal. What frustratingly is not changing, and I hope some of what Shikha said will change it, is the fact that come the mid-30s or come like 10 to 15 years into your career, women drop off, right? The kids come, or the in-laws get unwell, or the parents get unwell, and that caregiver responsibility is seen still as primary to a woman's job description in life. And that's not changing. So I am, through my 30-year career, I have hired women equally as men, but ask me how many women have I seen go all the way? To be probably like 3-4% in terms of just, and that's not changing. I try very hard, and in the past we've tried to have these pressures in the offices. We've tried to have this work from home, flexi hours, etc., etc. And it's somehow it's fine. It works for 6 months, 9 months, but then they come back and say, "Oh, my husband's saying now we are earning so well, or we're moving to another city, or the in-laws are not well. Why are you doing this? Why are you taking these long flights, red eyes, coming back, working, then looking after the children? It's taking a toll on your own personal health." And so they quit. So I am really hopeful that this whole transition to the virtual world, this 2 years pandemic, has taught us that we don't need to be sitting in office, right? All of us are sitting in our homes or wherever we are sitting and talking to each other. I am hoping this will be a game changer for women. Already, as you know, Aabha, a lot of the corporate world globally has made it 4 days work from office, Fridays work from home. In India, it's already weekends. After a long time, corporates have started acknowledging Saturday, Sundays at home. Large corporates today are working out of home. So I'm hoping this will bring women back to the workforce. What Shikha said in terms of what Neha is doing is great. Just reskilling and upskilling women after gaps, because women have taken gaps in the last 15 years, right? So I hope, given the kind of demand there is in the workforce today, given what a global player India is becoming in tech, IT services, some of these women get reskilled, upskilled, and come back to work. So, but to answer your question, it's still very slow, frustratingly slow.
Okay. Lakshmi, in terms of, when it comes to investing, firstly, I was shocked when Shikha said that they're more investing in crypto than stocks. I'm going to go back and look at that statistic at work. but Lakshmi is saying it's true. Tell me why? Why is that? What's happening? And, are we seeing amongst the whole, wave of retail investors that are now in the markets, are you seeing a significant amount of women that are also participating?
Yes, Aabha, the trend is gradually changing, as I mentioned, whether it is exchange-traded funds where we are tracking data, or it is just the demat accounts which are getting added. Or
Lakshmi, your sound has a problem. Is that just me?
Am I audible now? Can you hear me now?
You're audible, but there's a faint echo. It wasn't there when you first spoke. So I don't know if there's a sound system.
No, I think it's fine. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm saying whether it is opening up of demat account or mutual fund folios or just trading, I think we are seeing that a quantum shift where women are getting initiated into this. Yes, it has been, to a large extent, I would say, attributed to the pandemic, where work from home, you had more time, you had more productive time. And alternates like crypto also started doing rounds, given the fact that in some sense, not the right way, but in some sense, it also gave people the feeling, especially the millennials, oh, this is a great way to make money. The other aspect of it, that there could be losses also, whether it's in crypto or in equities, etc., that still didn't occur. I know a friend's daughter who's all of just 20, and she pings me saying that, I invested in a crypto just yesterday, $10,000, and it's already $13,000. So that's like $3,000. So what should I do? Should I just exit? So look at the thought process. And I'm sure the question would not have been very different had she invested in a stock. So the point is, yes, they are getting initiated. I only wish and pray that it's slightly long lasting. It has to be more durable, because there is a long rope, and you have to ensure that you cling on to this rope, because there is going to be a lot of ups and downs. So I'm happy to see the trend. I'm happy to see the tribe grow, but I would also be seriously observing that this trend sustains and more grows durably, and which is going to be long lasting, because wealth creation is not an overnight journey. Even to make dal makhani, it has to simmer like for 12-13 hours in a proper this, for it to really taste as good. And if you do a half-baked job, it's not going to taste even half as good as So I think that's very important. So women or anyone, and in this case it's women, especially the Gen Z, the millennials, need to keep this in mind, that try to make it slightly more long lasting. Otherwise these numbers, which are dream come true, can probably change into a nightmare.
So let me ask you all this in a kind of like a rapid fire. Your asset of choice for savings and wealth generation, stocks, crypto, property, or gold. Devina, I know, and I'm coming to you, Devina, on that. So, no point even asking her. She doesn't look beyond stocks. And Shikha is obviously going to say crypto. But Manisha, what would you say?
So unfortunately, Aabha, I'm restricted a lot, right? Given that I work in an investment bank. If I weren't, I would say stocks, but because I'm restricted, I think it's mutual funds is what I'm allowed.
Okay, and Lakshmi, mutual funds.
For me, it's equities, yes, via the mutual fund route, because I have all the worldly restrictions. But yes, it's without a doubt the much intended, caffeine to your financial portfolio, to my mind, no doubt, at least for me, and given that I lead a caffeine-free diet, I can't starve my financial portfolio off it. So yes, it's equities for me too.
Okay, Shinjini, what about you? And now you were also going to say I'm restricted, I think.
It's very interesting. So all my professional life, I had all these private side restrictions, and I didn't want to go and seek approvals, etc. So I didn't do it. And I thought that was the reason I didn't do it. But now that I'm free and I still do only mutual funds, because I realized, because Aditi, my co-founder, is a very active, investor in stocks. And just looking at her, initially both Chaitra and I got very excited, and we said, oh yeah, we now know somebody who can also do it. And, global market. So I opened an account. I actually opened a Robinhood account because I also wanted to test their app. And my son had a US SIM. So I was like, trying to do things. I opened a crypto account. So I tried everything. And then I realized that I, as a person, am very comfortable with mutual funds, because I don't want to spend more than a certain amount of my time doing this. And that works for me.
So, Devina, a lot of women I know have they've been doing it for a while. But now you meet even more women, particularly through the pandemic, who've been day trading, and they've done very well. How would you advise some of these women in terms of I'm not saying give them stock tips, but in terms of how to perfect the art of knowing or seeing value, and especially now when the markets are going to start to get choppy. Anything that you'd like to share with them?
Yeah, I mean, one thing which kind of makes me cautious is that women are at like two ends of the risk spectrum. There is one category of women who's only into saving and not really looking at how best to make that money work for them. And then you have now people who are who've never invested in stocks, straight away going into day trading and crypto without really understanding anything much. So and as you were saying, that it has been an extraordinarily good 1.5 years or a little more than that. But that's not going to last forever. It was true in India. It was also true for the Robinhood traders on the NASDAQ. But that party is coming to an end. And you should look at all asset classes, because that is very, very important. In fact, you'd be surprised to know that throughout the previous decade, whenever family and friends asked us, many times we advised them to put it in bank FDs. And for that entire decade, from 2010 to 2020, the bank FDs actually gave a higher return than equity mutual funds. So, so be very cognizant. It's not as if that, this is some free ride that if you invest in stocks, it's written in stone that you will get great returns. I mean, NASDAQ itself, again, people have this recency bias that NASDAQ is a great place to invest, but NASDAQ did not take, after that 2000 crash, it did not take out its high for 15 years, that it crossed its 2000 high in 2015. So, pain in equity markets can be very prolonged. So whoever is doing this, either you use professional fund managers, the mutual fund, PMS, or now you have these small case kind of platforms also where you are holding the portfolio, but somebody is at least advising you on what you should hold. So you can look at things like that. If you want to do investing on your own, please educate yourself. I mean, that would be, as I said, For me, the driver has been learning, and First Global has been built only on learning and intellectual capital. So if you want to do this, you have to put in the hours. There is no shortcut that you can. And of course, now the easy thing is that whichever way you want to learn, whether it is books, videos, blogs, everything is now available. You can even do a formal course in a university sitting at home. So that is those are all things. So if you want to do this seriously, educate yourself. If you want to do a DIY job. So
and it takes a lot of education, let me tell you that.
yeah.
I couldn't actually agree with Devina more. When I set up MainChain Research and Consulting, one of our first verticals, we do education consulting, we do technology consulting and investment advisory. So one of the biggest main ethos of any investment, and especially in the crypto space, is that do your homework and go through and get educated. Whether you come to MainChain, because we started off like that, by educating company executives, managements, industry associations, family offices. But that first leg into the space is education. Or you go online, and I'm sure there are numerous courses available, which you can, but investing into crypto because your neighbor made money, or not investing into crypto because your friend lost money, those are the two worst decisions, parameters. You're not then coming from an informed decision as to whether, I can only speak for crypto and blockchain, is a space where I want to take investment exposure or not. So, MainChain was built on that ethos of, and we've been doing that since. Education has been a big focus for us.
So, Lakshmi, Shinjini, both of you, I want to just ask, do you need to have a lot of money to start investing?
No.
That's a big deterrent. Everyone thinks that, oh my God, so how do they start? And what if they only start now when they're 40?
I started my first investment with just 10,000 bucks. Okay. And this was way back in, I joined Kotak in 99, and I did my first investment. Incidentally, it was back in 2000. So it was in a stock called KMFL, or Kotak Mahindra Finance, which of course subsequently was merged into a bank. And this was courtesy my colleague who kept pushing me, saying that invest 10,000 bucks in my name, and this is the money to lose. I will underwrite this. Those days, that was the way you convince people to invest. It was very colloquial. So that was my first brush with investments. And then, of course, after that, there was no looking back. I had to, those days, we never had forums like these, Aabha, where people can actually look and get some more nuggets of wisdom. So you had to do everything was DIY, understand it yourself. Internet was not that very popular. Social media was never rife with interesting tidbits, I would say. Gossip is always there. So I think that was the first brush. And then I realized that, you need to really get yourself equipped and start. So number one principle was no amount is small amount, any amount is pretty good. But then, of course, I regretted, I entered early and I exited early. Everything else was fine with that investment. And another thing is that for my maid, for example, she's been now, 18 years working with me. And I started an SIP for just 500 bucks. Okay. Her daughter is an engineer today, and she owes it all to me, because just earning her income and putting it in a bank, which obviously, most of these, banks, even if it's a cooperative bank, they don't really earn much. How could she have, had the money to actually educate her daughter? But that small amount which she topped up subsequently has been a key driver, and she acknowledges it, saying that, it had she not met me, or had she, and today, given where her kids are in terms of profile, they don't want her to work. And I'm the only house, or my house is the only house that she still works, because she's saying that, I can't quit your job. I tell her, now you take it easy, but she says no, because the kids are earning very well. So I think no amount is a small amount. Getting started and breaking that block in your mind, I think, is the most important thing.
Do you want to add to that?
No, Aabha, you talked about being 40. So I only started investing or saving or anything when I was 40, because before that I was 39, but I was working in the bureaucracy. And as you know, in Indian bureaucracy, you have a lot of power and privilege and home and, whatever, but you don't have money, right? So I never had money to save or spend. And then when I joined Bank of America, I suddenly had more money than I knew what to do with. So I just it was kind of a need to, and my husband's a academician. So both of us were like these hippies before that. And thus suddenly I had money and I just didn't know what to do with it. I bought a house, I was paying EMIs and I still had money and I didn't know what to do with it. So one of our wealth managers at Merrill, he was the first person who came and told me that you should invest basically. And I started, but, and you have to remember in my career, early in my career, I had seen the Harshad Mehta scam from inside RBI, which effectively meant that there was a lot of resistance to actually being in the market, because the market was a place where things could spoil your reputation. There were senior people in RBI who actually lost a lot in terms of their career. So I came with a very deep bias against the equities market. So the best thing that happened to me was walking right into Merrill Lynch because of the merger. And then I just learned very quickly about equities and how that market works. So I started at 40 and I retired at, I actually became an entrepreneur at 52 because I just took all exposure on equity because I knew I could live on the money that I had. There was really no reason for me to, worry too much about it. So I have had a very sort of contrarian journey to usual people. So one of the reasons that I feel like at SALT, we answer a lot of questions about young people saying what amount is enough to start investing. And I think that education is fairly common now to say you can start with 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees. But one of the things that I think we can do a lot more in that space is I find a lot of women, and Devina said this when she and I were talking on our Twitter space, that a lot of women over a period of time accumulate a lot of this debt that, Papa said ELSS kar lo, then husband said something kar lo, then CA said something kar lo. And as you kept getting, having more money, you kept accumulating a portfolio without really understanding what your asset allocation really was. So one of the things that we want to focus on is to help that segment of women to start understanding where to start. And I was hearing your video the other day, Devina, on this where to start, and I was laughing. I was like, this is exactly one of the problems we want to solve, because we heard that from a lot of women. So that's a very fair question.
And so to know where to go, you have to know what your starting point is. So a lot of people have kind of investment goals, but unless you know what your pie looks like, and this is not a trivial question, because it is not just people who don't know anything about the markets. I have even found, very large family offices thinking they have one kind of asset allocation. Let us say that they might think that we are mostly in fixed income globally. And then you actually do the numbers and you find most of their assets are in real estate, So it can be things like this. So yes. You first understand where you are, what assets you have, and minus your liabilities, which is all your loans. So
we're actually making a product for that. So it was a very interesting insight, because we started talking to younger women first, and then we realized that there was a huge amount of pent-up demand in the late 30s, early 40s women. And their problem was not that where to start. Their problem was what to do with this bloody thing I have. And I don't even want to look at it, because when I look at it, I don't understand what the damn thing is. And that's such a common women thing that I found with women who were working, because again, they were making the money, but they were not making time for their money.
So guys, there's Shinjini, and SALT also has a really great game on their app for those of you who want to try it out. It tells you your financial profile, and I don't remember what mine was. I was a plum or an apple or
yeah. The idea was to say people are sorry, yeah. You got cut for a second in between.
We shared it on the groups as well for the members who want to play it and see. But Manisha, as someone who's sort of leading the way in investment banking, and someone who is, while we have a lot of leaders in finance over the last few years in India, there are only a handful of you.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, in terms of banking and finance, and since we have you with us today, I'm just trying to draw out more of your story, because you're a power woman. You are the one, and I know of men and deal makers who are always like, oh my God, is Manisha handling that deal? So, you're being very modest this morning, but I'd love to get a sense from you. And I know that that's not why you got into it, but I want people to understand the value of being able to see the world from that position.
So I think, Aabha, as you said, when I got into this world, very male dominated, still continues to be, especially, Aabha, as you know, the corporates and clients you and I deal with are extremely male dominated and tend to be fairly conservative even now. What's nice, and I think what's really heartening for me to see, is that in the corporate world, a lot of the family offices, a lot of the next generation is women are coming up and wanting to be part of the workforce, being part of the conversation around family offices. Today you see the girls in the family also wanting their own share. I mean, Shikha mentioned that, it's as recent as 2005 that women have rights. It's the first time I'm actually talking to corporate clients who are looking to sell their companies, monetize their stakes, saying, I want to sell the company because I want to give part of the companies to my daughter, part of it to my son. This is the first time. I would never hear that, right? I would always hear, no, my daughter's married, she's gone, and I just, sell this company and give the proceeds to my 2 sons or 3 sons or whatever it is. So I'm very heartened by the conversations that are happening. A lot of it is happening because of increased education by women, a lot of awareness, thanks to social media, etc., lots of awareness amongst the women also on their rights. So some of the changes are positive. Are they fast enough? I don't think so. Is it still a very male-dominated world, the corporate world? Yes. And what amazes me, and I think some of the other panelists should talk about it, is that even a sector like tech, which is such a level playing field, there are no barriers to entry. Even there, it is such a male-dominated world. The number of female entrepreneurs is a handful, right? Aabha, you and I can just count them on our fingertips. 10, 15 good entrepreneurs in the tech world. So why is everything such a boys' club? It's something that really frustrates me. It's changing. I think a lot more needs to be done, and I think it's to the point everyone made, that women are need to just shake off some of the history that they're coming with, some of the baggage they're coming with, right? We are becoming a deterrent to our own success, and we need to get rid of all that and stake our claim, right? All this, I think Shikha mentioned that we're apologetic about the money we create, apologetic about the wealth they have, apologetic about the fact that we want to run our own money, go and play a game on Shinjini's site, etc., and say, look, I want to run. I think we're apologetic about all those things, and I think all that needs to be, we as women need to do a lot more. I know, people can say, look, the ecosystem needs to be more friendly. The ecosystem is one that is dominated by patriarchy. So I think all of us need to push harder, need to stay. I think what women need to do more than anything else is be resilient. This was the point I made earlier, right? This whole thing about falling off 5-7 years into your career, almost treating your career as a hobby, needs to be shed out, right? The journey will be tough. When the kids come, when the in-laws get old, when the kids go to colleges, all those times are very tough for a woman because your primary role is out of a caregiver. But I think if you're resilient and you keep pushing through, the journey is heartening. I was recommended to every woman. Sorry, you want to say something?
No, I think that's amazing what you just said. And we had a question come in from somebody who's just asked me privately to ask you. I think that a lot of issues that women have with looking at investing is that of trust. They feel that a lot of the wealth managers or banks are just chasing them as a transaction. So how do they broach it? I mean, they may not have the knowledge to perhaps go to they may get overwhelmed with an online platform like a Grow, for example.
Yes.
So what's the best way to start? Like, would it be to approach your bank, go to an online platform, find a good fund manager, an independent manager? Like, how do you start?
So Aabha, it can be any of those things, as you said, but I think start small, right? I mean, trust is built by basically, you'll get more confident, right? You'll get more comfortable. You'll learn more thanks to all the online training available. And then you'll build an equation with your fund manager. That's what you choose to do. But always start small, diversify. If you like, have 2 wealth managers. You don't have to have one, have 2 of them. And then build your equation with the person you feel more comfortable with, the counterparty you feel more comfortable, and build it out. And maybe over that journey, you yourself will gain the confidence, much like what Shinjini did, right? Her learning was basically gradual, and she basically decided she can do this on your own. So I think as you put your foot into the water, you get more confident. That's how I started. I didn't invest earlier. As was mentioned, I basically put the money in fixed deposit and said, this is it. My father said fixed deposits are good. He was a banker, and he said, banks are safe, put it all in State Bank of India. It's not going anywhere. And then over time, when I started doing it, I started very small too. I started with 10,000, 20,000 rupees, and then I got more confident. And I think that's the way to do it. And always work with, if you're starting off, always work with people with reputation. I know there are a lot of new kids on the block, etc. But check the reputation. Take the advice. Check online on whether these people are reputable. Maybe your friends, etc. have invested with them. Reputation in the world of money is really important because it's all about governance, ethics, and reputation.
If I can add to Manisha's point over here, and Aabha, to your question of whoever's finding out about trust, there are the two things I would like to say. First is that, we have to realize that trust is very tricky when it comes to investments. The maximum you can do is trust the person who is taking, certain investment decisions on your behalf or telling you about the pros and cons of it. But, we all have to be superly aware that the speculative investments, money going, your investment rising in value or going down in value doesn't mean that you lose trust because something went down in value. So that doesn't mean that you made a bad investment decision necessarily because either the wealth manager, fleeced you, or as long as whoever you trusted to do investing on your behalf, had a sound rationale, and you're in a position to evaluate what is the investment thesis, what are the grounds for investments, what's our mitigation strategy, blah, blah, blah. Ask basic questions and sort of, get a comfort level around the investment thesis. And then what happens in the market sentiments, geopolitical factors, macroeconomic factors. So much goes into it that actually makes the value of an investment go up and down. So I think that's really important for whoever is, feeling that they don't want to be fleeced and they need to trust. Trust doesn't mean that I trust this person, so whatever that person puts in money into on my behalf, it's a one-way ride up. There is going to be volatility and there is going to be risk and there's going to be all of that. And second thing is that, so the whole crypto space and the whole crypto revolution, if I may call it so, is based on, it's a trustless protocol. It's a trustless technology. That's exactly what blockchain and crypto is. It is a self-sovereign, trustless form of organization, and it's a trustless form of money. So if you are able to educate and understand what this investment look like, the first thing you would admit that is that you don't trust anyone. And it is a trustless protocol. Of course, this is an educational session on how this is trustless and what trustless means. But for everyone who's listening, I encourage you to at least go down this rabbit hole yourself, if for nothing else, and understand why an investment in crypto and underlying technology is trustless.
I really hit a nerve there for sure. But, and just to have fun with it, Shikha, I'm going to ask Devina now. Devina, what's your view on crypto?
No, that is, unlike a whole lot of others, I don't think that it is not a legitimate asset class, but it is a highly volatile asset class. So as I said, it is doesn't make sense to put a lot of your money there. It can add some value as a sliver. It can be the tadka to the dal, it can't be the dal. So, if you haven't done stocks ever, don't start off at that end. That would be my advice. And if you are going into it, of course, as Shikha was saying, at least educate yourself. In any case, you should educate yourself, because besides trading in crypto, blockchain as a technology, I think, will have a lot of uses in a variety of places. So that is something, all of us need to at least understand the basics. I'm not like a great expert, but at least I have written a couple of articles, which is essentially crypto for dummies, kind of, because I was the dummy to start with. So I said, let me educate myself and try to educate others about exactly what it is in the first place. As Shikha was saying, that a lot of people don't even really understand what this is and how the mechanism itself works.
And it's an evolving space, Devina. Everyone's a dummy. I still consider myself a dummy. Honestly, even though I've been studying and in this space for the last 7-8 years, but the learning curve is so steep that if you don't, you have to come into the space with a lot of humility and with that aura of dummy, and then understand and educate yourself, and then get into it from an entrepreneurial spin or an investment spin, but it's a great ride. And this is what game theory is about. You bet on something, you learn something, before everybody else does, before it becomes the dal, only when it's at the tadka stage. And who knows when the tadka then starts becoming the main dish. When everyone's doing something, then your returns aren't high. Of course, the risk capital has to be there. But because since we're all financial experts over here, the last thing I would want to say about crypto, and when we look at the volatility and the risk involved in crypto investing, we have to look at a risk-adjusted return. And that is measured by the Sharpe ratio. And if we look at the Sharpe ratio of crypto against comparable asset classes, it has outperformed all other asset classes because it gives you a higher Sharpe ratio. So for all the volatility and risk that crypto brings to your portfolio, the returns in the last 11 years have outperformed for every unit of risk that you have taken. So it more than just, and that's it on risk.
Yeah, over a very long term, it will show up as that because your starting point is minuscule. It's a fraction of a cent. It's not even a cent. So naturally, any amount will look good. But the fact is that there have been 85% drawdowns on the on currency. So that is something you have to be cognizant of. It's like you cannot say that this is a Sharpe ratio and therefore the risk-adjusted return is going to be good. And that, as I said, you can't even say for the stock market because there are long periods when it gives no returns. I mean, there have been, even in the Indian stock market, there was a 9-year period from 1993 onwards where it gave no returns. In NASDAQ, as I said, there was a 15-year period. So just looking at point to point, especially with when you're starting in crypto from a negligible price point, then any amount looks very, the percentage returns look very dramatic. But if you look at 1 or 2 years, again, the Sharpe ratio will not be so skewed.
Lakshmi, I want to get you in for a closing comment because then we're out of time.
Yeah, I know, but Aabha, on a lighter note, I'm glad you didn't ask me that question, because if you would have asked me, I would say ask crypto view not to a 40 plus but to a 20 minus. That was on a lighter vein. But coming back to the topic what we're discussing, I think my only takeaway and my message to all viewers out here is that independence is intoxicating. There is no doubt about it, whether it was the country's independence 75 years back or its financial independence that we all seek. So it's not late. It's absolutely okay if you say that, oh, I don't have it right now. I would love to do it and I want to do it. There is no time. There is no, yes, one can say you can start it as of yesterday, but today is a good day as well. So please go for it.
Yeah. Today is the youngest you're ever gonna be. So
absolutely, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, everyone. Aabha, I'll leave that to you.
No, I was going to do the same. Thank you so much. I do know that time is very valuable to all of you, but it means the world to us because, we're really trying to inspire a generation of women to go out there and seize the day. And hearing all of you really makes a world of a difference. To know that you're there, you're part of the community, that you're continuing to kind of do so much at different stages of your lives and careers and shine at the top. It's wonderful. And thank you so much for joining us here today. And Shinjini, we look forward to all that's coming up with SALT. Devina, we look forward to that article on crypto. And I look forward to updates from all of you as we go along. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Bye.